brother, and I said, well, it's kind of a sad time. I said, well, what do you think? And he said, well, if we want to nominate somebody, to put it up for nomination. And that's what we did. And he got nominated, and he got back in. And we went on and struggled through COVID and all the hardships that happened. And many people died during that time. And it was a sad time. But we struggled out of that and made it out of it. And many things are still going on right now. Many things. Lawsuits, head rights issues, and that's one thing I can update you on in here in a little bit. But up to now, what I've been seeing, the theme of this summit, Oil Summit, 2023, is what I've been hearing from my point of view, and what I've been perceiving, you might say, is that we're getting put on the spot, our Mineral Council, and there's a lot of big decisions that have to be made. Even tomorrow, there's a big decision has to be made. That's why our Kahika, that's how you say chief, Kahika, and you could see that he was pretty concerned about it too. Although he didn't mention it, you could see what he was talking about, and any decision. And he did say too, at the very end of his speech, that I agree with him also. He said we need to sit down at this table right here, and one of these big tables, put about 3 or 4 together, and put all these seats around them like that, put them all around like that, put the government, the Osage Nation government on that side, and Mineral Council on this side, and a bunch of whoever else is involved on the other side, and talk about it. Talk about it. That was his main point. And I kind of agree with him in a way. I really do. Communication. I've always stressed that. I got a degree from late in life from Oklahoma Western University in business administration. And I'm glad I went back to school and I learned a lot. When I was young, I was kind of a rebel, but I was so engrossed in our Indian cultural ways that I learned. I think I learned more from my folks and other elders in different tribes, and that I went searching. And I even ran away from home. I was telling friends here, my council brothers here, that I ran away from home a couple times when I was a teenager. And I dropped out of school, and my folks didn't even realize I was even gone when I came back. My mom said, "Where you been?" And there used to be a government school over Chilocco, or something. The elder remember that. And my mom said, she was kind of tough. She was a tough little gal. And she said, "If you don't straighten up, I'm going to send you to Chilocco." And one of my friends, our cousins, Bonnie Pratt, y'all know her, she said, "Myra, if you went up there, they'd have jumped you." Because in them days, it was Otos and Poncas, and Kiowas and Navajos and Osages. We didn't have a chance. But that's what happened. And then when I got involved with our folks were religious people. They were good people. They were Indian. They were full bloods. They taught us a lot. I'm the youngest son. My dad was the youngest son in his family too. There was 13 or 14 kids in his family, and he was the youngest boy. And he had 3 other boys besides me. I was the youngest one. And I had two half brothers and 1 half sister. That's her Christy. She's named after my half sister. Her name was Carol. And the chief and I, Jeffrey, we sit together. And the last time I danced was in 1974 at Elon Street. Long time ago. And Jeffrey and I used to sit together. And we used to talk to one another. He said, "Myra, we're never going to get any farther than this." Oh, I said, "No." And the farthest I got was a water boy. That's what our culture is all about. It's about working your way up from the bottom all the way to the top, And my dad and my mom even said, "You follow your brothers." My dad used to say that too. Follow your brothers. They're older than you are. They know better than you are. Do. And in a lot of ways they did, So I listened to them. I listened to my folks, and I didn't step in front of them. And if they were standing right here, they wouldn't be talking. I wouldn't be talking. They would be talking. And my brother John, he's ailing right now. He's got diabetes. He's got congestive heart failure goes along with diabetes. But he's getting around. He's able to walk around the house and able to use the bathroom. And that's just about it. He runs out of energy after that. That's because of diabetes. But you might give your hearts and prayers to him. You know, he was a good man. Still a good man. But I learned a lot from them, and they got involved with our politics way before I did. I didn't run for office until I was 60 years old. And there's a little saying that I've learned over the years, and President Lincoln, y'all know who he was. You know, he was one of the greatest presidents that ever lived, I think. And he had a saying. I heard a quote about him one time, and it always made me laugh. And he was kind of a controversial president during that time, if you read history. You know, and I'm a history buff too. And the Civil War was on the brink, you know, and the things were pretty tight, and it was just everything was chaos, you know. Slavery was a big part of that, and money was a big part of slavery too, you know. And he was at a rally one time, and then one of them people out in the audience said, "Are you two-faced?" And President Lincoln said, "I don't know if you want to look at it in a face like this." That was a good answer, I thought, you know. He didn't have to say anything after that either, you know. But he also said, you know, I got some quotes here. I wrote, you know, I got it on my calendar this last couple of weeks, and I'll read it to you. And it really says a lot about what we've been talking about in the last couple of days. All these good producers and people making presentations, and they're trying to teach us something, what they're trying to do, and they're trying, and in a way they're showing us the way. And another way, they want to be a part of it too, you know, at the same time. And the first one is from a man named Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I'm sure he was a German. It says, "Life is for the living. Life is for the living. And he who lives must be prepared for changes." Life is for the living, and he who lives must be prepared for change. Makes sense, don't it? It really does. Another one was from Mary Shelley. Y'all have heard of Mary Shelley. If you haven't, she's the one who wrote Frankenstein. Remember that in your history books. And her maiden name was Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. She was married to a poet. His name was Percy Shelley, I believe. And she said, "The beginning is always today." She was a novelist and a poet too. Beginning is always today. And another one that y'all, if any of y'all are Shawnee, anybody Shawnee in here? Shawnee? That's how our Osage people call them Shawnee. That's how we say Shawnees. And Tecumseh, y'all have heard of him, haven't you? He was a great warrior, is what they said. He said, a single twig breaks. A single twig breaks. But a bundle of twigs is strong. A single twig breaks, but a bundle of twigs is strong. What does that tell you? That tells me right there we got to stick together, you know. And that's what this says. It tells me we got to stick together. Because if we don't stick together, another quote that Mr. Lincoln said, and too bad, he was during the Civil War in the South. But the South had their good points too, you know. Our people split up half and half, what I was told. And, half of them went to the north, the other half went to the south. Even Governor Joe in what time ago, they were in that period. They were going to the south. That's what our folks did, and the rest, whoever went to the north, I guess. But anyway, he said toward the end of it, before they shot him, assassinated him, he said that house divided cannot stand. A house divided cannot stand. And he's right. He's right about that. And our government, when it changed in 2006, from 2004 to 2006, my brothers even told me this. I wasn't even around. I was working at Whirlpool. I was cutting steel and doing presses and things like that, and making oven ranges. But my brothers, I used to hear them talk about it. And in 2004, they voted on that, and they said, you know what? I heard my brother Eddie said, you know, they need to make it a board. They're into the tribal council, because it was a tribal council before that. You know, said they need to make it a board. Make it a board. So what happened in 2004, it became the Mineral Council. In 2006, they separated it out, and the Osage Nation took education, health, and everything else, and we took oil and gas. But I heard my brothers say that, and if they were here, they would tell you the same thing. And that always bared on my mind. You know, what do we do now? You know, if we're way out here doing oil and gas, and we're doing this and doing that, and trying to sell leases, you know, and they're doing all the rest. And I heard my brother John say one time, something's going to happen. You know, it's not going to, something's not right. And he used to say that. And he was just about right about that too. And what happened, this is my thoughts too, you know, and sooner or later we're going to have to come together. One of these days, one of these months, one of these meetings, one of these years. And I think we're running out of time too. And I'm not exactly a youngster anymore, you know. I'm 73 years old. I'm like Brother John Maker, you know. I don't like to be called an elder yet. I can still get around a little bit, you know, and I feel like I can still do a hoop or two, but every now and then. But I was an athlete way back when, and I was too skinny and little to play football, and I remember my cousin Lance Goodpop says, "You ever play football?" I said, "No, I probably would have got hurt." Yeah, you're right. All them guys, and how many guys are big bone guys, you know, they're big. I'll tell you a story too. I played junior high football, and we went against Hominy Bucks, and our coach was Coach Powers, I remember, and he put me in the defensive back. I was a little bitty guy, you know, and we were playing Hominy, and a big fullback named Paul Hudson, Paul Hooks Hudson, they called him. And Kenny Bob remember that. I was a defensive back, and I was the only person between him and that goal line. His legs were bigger than my whole body. And I tried to tackle him. He didn't pay no attention to me at all. He just ran over me. And that was the end of my football career right there. In junior high, so I started playing basketball, and I ran track. I got pretty good at it too. But back to the story, you know. I took some courses at Central State. It used to be now Central Oklahoma, and it was about unions. It was about labor unions. It was a business course, and I still remember because Alan Manning was in the same course, and he was Dr. Manning's boy, and I think he passed on, I believe. And Alan, anyway, he was in that class, and we would kind of sit together and we talked after the class, and it was all over with. We'd sit around, go to the student union, and talk about this class. It was a very hard class. It was a business course, and it was tough. And about labor unions, about mediators, people that intermediate between two parties, usually Democrats or Republicans or the big unions and people like that. It really got heated, you know. And that reminded me when we sit down with whoever we have to sit down with, there has to be a mediation. There has to be somebody, not so much keeping the peace, but somebody that's gonna say, okay, almost like a debate. Yeah, somebody can say, okay, you can say this, you know, you said enough. You can say that, and no, you can't say that. It's somebody like that. That's what that reminds me of. And we have a lot to not so much to learn, but a lot to what we have learned. We've got to put it to work. Put it that way. You know? our council is a good council. It's a good council, and it's the people on are skilled in their own way. They got more oil and gas experience than I have. And I've been out with David Sell, and been out with Mark Helmer, and been out with Bill Lynn several times, you know. And I wanted to learn, get out there in the field with them. And Bill and I went on the first well, the orphan well, by the way. The first orphan well we went to was over there by the old casino, the casino road, you know, going back south. And there's an old, that well, I can't remember the name of it now, but the way you got to it, we had to make our own road to get to it. And Bill and I went, and he said, oh, there's an old railroad track. Went through that typical area, right in that general area. And he said, I want to show you that railroad track. We went down there and got on that railroad track, and it was it had to be 100 some years old. And when that railroad track we got to the very end, it was practically straight down. Straight down, and then there wasn't very much room on either side to turn around. So we got to the end of that trail, that road, and we had to actually back up like that to get out of there. And I said, Bill, hope you got a good eyesight, because if we fall down, we never will get out of here. That's getting out in the field with him. I wanted to go out with him, and I wanted to go out more than once too. But that taught me how big this place is. It's vast territory, you know, a reservation. It's if you haven't been out there, you need to go out and get out there and see what it's like. We went down into a ravine no more than a mile from the Kansas line one time, and the grass was about that high. The only way to get through there was through a brook. And then there wasn't no bridge there, it was just rocks like that. We went through there and the weeds were that high. And there's a well right over there. And I said, really? We got over there and we were looking at it, and it was an abandoned oil well. And that was one of the first ones we looked at. And I said, I hope we can get out of here, Bill. And we got out, and we had the 4-wheel drive, and no problem after that. And I've been out with Richie Helmer, been out with him several times, and I learned the ropes that way. But back to, it always reminds me of when you got to negotiate. Yeah, you have to really learn how to compromise. If you don't compromise in one way or another, nothing's accomplished. Nothing. And it's not going to take just one meeting. It's going to take several meetings. You know, we've got some very big decisions to make, and then in the next several months, maybe even next year. And it's not just about one particular item. It's about several items. The head rod issue is Mr. Pipeson. He doesn't have that anymore. We've turned it over to Raleigh Wilson. And that's another issue that everybody's really concerned about. I'm sure they are. And we've been hearing too, there's some people who want to give head rods back. And we've been hearing that on emails. And we talked about this even on the second Mineral Council. And there was a guy named Brian DeRoss. Remember him? He was a Cherokee boy. He was the OST director guy. And he came to us on the second Mineral Council and said, what do you guys want to do if they start giving these head rods back? And we told him at the time, Sonny Abbott and whoever else was on the council at that time, and we said, well, let's create an account. And you can put those, if they want to give it back, we'll put it in that account. That's what happened then. But we found out then also that involves a lot of legal issues, you know. There may be errors, you know, and the BIA's got a procedure that you go through, so everything just went kind of fizzled out after that. So as time went on by, you all know what happened after 2014, you know, and 2018 I got back on, and the issue was still there, and it's still there now. And Mr. Wilson, Raleigh Wilson, is our attorney now, and that's about all I can tell you about it. He's checking into it, and he'll get back with us as soon as he possibly can, you know. And so that's the little update on what I told the chairman I would say what I could about it, and he said he'd give me his blessing about it. And the windmill issue, I can't say a whole lot about that, but all I can say is getting closer. It's getting closer, and it's getting on the positive side too. I can say that too. It's looking a lot better than it was a couple of years ago. Believe me. And other things that are on the horizon, you might say, and things are just like back to the round tables. I always call them round tables. We got to. The chief said, you know, that if we don't talk, we're going to get mad at one another. We're going to get upset with one another. We're going to disagree with one another. We're going to disregard one another. That's more what's going to happen. And I don't want that myself. I'm a compromiser. I've always have been. I want to find a solution. I want to make a good way for the shareholders. I want them, especially in our lifetime, you know. And we got to think ahead too. And if we don't do something now, get something straight, get something lined out, and show our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and even great-great-grandchildren someday that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish and be successful at it. Then it's going to show. These younger people are sitting around outside out here and they're looking around, and some of them are even talking Osage, which is good. But they're also wondering what they're accomplishing in there, wondering what they're, you know, what's going to be like these young ladies out here sitting out here with our Congress people. Wonder what's going to be like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Just like those slides. I don't have those slides like that, but 20, 30, 35, like the people were proposing, the 2040, 2050. We had a summit in Tulsa about several years ago. I can't remember when it was, but there was a man there. He was a environmental type man. You know, he was an energy man, and we had him talk during a luncheon. We had a luncheon in Tulsa that time, and he said one thing at the very end. It really caught everybody's eye. I mean, it caught our attention for sure. He said, just like our theme said, you know, well, it's never going to go away. I've even asked people from Devon and Chaparral and people like that, and I said, Myron, there's never going to go away. There's no way you can totally get rid of it. It's just, you want to keep, if you want to keep warm in the winter and cool in the summer, you know. And there's the band of people that are coming in the United States now. It was 330 million, and I would imagine it's up to 350 billion by now with all the people coming in from the south, you know. And it's probably up to 350 at least, maybe more. And that's a lot of people, you know. A lot of energy that needs to be used. And anyway, this gentleman said, he said, by the year 2050, he said, we're going to need windmills, we're going to need natural gas, we're going to need oil, we're going to need coal, and the last thing he said, we're going to need nuclear energy. Remember that, Bill? He said, we're going to need that nuclear energy too, because there's too many people in the world that want to live comfortably the way we're always used to living comfortably. That made sense to me. And a lot of them won't be around yet. Hopefully, in 2050, I'm 73 now, that's almost 25 some years from now. I'd be well over 100, or close to 100. But nobody lives that long anymore, you know, but my little grandchildren, little step-grandchildren, they'll be around, you know. They'll be in the 30s probably, you know, and all of you probably have people the same way, children and grandchildren. That's what we got to think about. That's why we got to get to this table right here, and set everybody down and look at one another and whether we're related. I'm related to the chief. Our great grandmothers were sisters. That's how close we are, and he tells everybody that too. And but I disagree with him on a lot of things, and he disagreed with me too. But he does. He has helped us. He's helped the Mineral Council. I've asked him on a couple of occasions to help us. On one occasion, there was a gentleman from Hominy that wouldn't let us get on his lease. And I went to the chief, Everett, and Brother Everett and I went to the chief and said, he was standing outside on the sidewalk, and I said, Jeff, can you help us out? And he said, what's the deal? And I said, well, this gentleman won't let anybody on this lease. It's got a gas line going through there, and he won't nothing to work until he signs off on it. So he talked to his wife was from Hominy, you know. So anybody had been related to the man. So they went down and got it done. The very next day, he signed off, just like that. So sometimes it's blood thicker than water, you know. But then again, it helps the shareholders, right? And another time, I asked him too. You know, there was my dad always said there was the old tribal council had a couple head rights. He always said that. I remember he said we use it for expenses, we use it for whatever we need to use it for per diem. And those old guys like that, my dad and all them, they didn't get paid. They didn't get paid. They were well-off people. They were well-off men, you know. My dad was tight. That's probably why he was well-off, I guess. He was tight, believe me. But they didn't need money, you know. They did this for you all. They did this for me. They did this for everybody, and I always admired those men. You know, Joe Colby and Mr. Ripolette. And my dad got put on the council in 1958, and my mother was. We were living in Barn. We grew up in Barnstall. We didn't grow up here in Alaska. We were Barnstall Panthers, and my mom's cousin was named Oscar Logan Sr., and he passed away. He was on the council, and he passed away, and they called up my dad and my mom, and they wanted him to be on the council, and that's when he started in 1958, and it was on there for many years after that. But those guys always admired them old men because they didn't get paid, you know. They didn't get anything, and they kept us from getting, you know, exterminated back in the 50s. Some of the older people remember that, you know. They kept us from getting that. And a woman that had a big part of it was Mrs. Roosevelt. I don't know if anybody ever heard that story, you know. She was a Democrat, and there was a Republican administration, and they were wanting to exterminate the Osage tribe. And I heard from my folks, and y'all may have heard the same story, but Chief Paul Pitts called up Mrs. Roosevelt, and I think he went to see her. And she was a Democrat, by the way. And she went to the Congress, and she had a lot of evidence. She had a lot of pull, you know. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a 4-time president. And she just told Congress to leave the tribe alone. They did. That's exactly what happened. And they left us alone. And otherwise, we would have been exterminated. No more Osages. That's how close it got. So that's a little history about. If you didn't know that, that's a true story. It really is. And that's when back in the 50s, that's the phone. You had to ring them up like that. Some of the older ones remember that, but we moved. My mom bought a home at Pawhuska, and I've been up there ever since. And my brother Eddie didn't want to leave Barnstall. He ended up going back down there. He's still down there, Steve. But that's I don't know whether you want to call it demeanor or you want to call it skill or what. To talk to people, you know. You gotta, my brother, one of my older brothers, my dad didn't really tell me a whole lot because I was I was the youngest one. He said, talk to your brothers, and they'll tell you. In a lot of ways, he didn't have time for me, but my brothers did. And one of my brothers always told me, he said, look them straight in the eye. When you talk to somebody, look them straight in the eye. And I always try to do that. That's what we're going to have to do, and if we're going to resolve any conflicts, resolve any faults, resolve any disagreements, resolve any complications, which is complicated right now. And we make any good, sound decisions to get this mineral estate back where it always has been. It never has left either. It never has. And it's a very powerful. I was telling the lady that did the orphan will program a while ago. I said, it's federal law. It's federal law. And it was signed by Theodore Roosevelt. One of them, he was a Republican too, by the way. And when he signed it, it became federal law, and that's when they had the responsibility and the trust over the Osage people at the time, and who all had grandparents and great-grandparents that were living at the time, you know. You see pictures out there, you know, and it must have been a great time, you know. And but those that allotment act was done for a reason. We all know that. And the allotment act was actually done in the 1880s to a lot of the different tribes, the Poncas and Iowas, and that was done anyway back before we ever had an allotment. And it was a man named William Dawes. He was a senator from the state of Missouri, and they started that to separate our people. That's what they did, you know. They made an allotment, and you know, they had to have a road, you know, and that's what happened. It started in the 1880s, and our people we bought this land, just like the chief said. You know, he's right. We bought this land. The railroad company wanted to move us out. As we've all heard, you know, they wanted to move us out because the railroad were coming in. Cattle was coming up from Texas, you know, and this was Indian territory. And so we bought it from the Cherokees. Well, the story I heard, the Cherokees didn't want them because it was too rocky. I guess they were farmers, and there you go. And the story goes, I'll tell you, this is the last story, and I'll let you all go. And Wadaika, there was a band called Wadaika band. That really wasn't his name. He had a different name, but they called him Wadaika. And that means kind of like a tough, awkward man or something like that. If you've ever seen a picture of him, he has one of those felt hats or one of those kind of beaver hats. It sticks out like that. You ever seen it? That's Wadaika. And the band was down there by Cleveland, Oklahoma. You all know where Cleveland is, you know. Going down the bridge there, the river. That right there was the Wadaika band. My mother was from that band. And the Logans and the Pratt from the Mahoney, you know, Brother Everett's people were from that band. That's why Everett and I are close in a lot of ways, because our mother and his grandfather were all from the same band. And what happened in Kansas when they were still in there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of things were going on, you know. The white people who wanted to come in and move us out, and they told Wadaika, he was a holy man, he was a medicine man. And what I've heard, people were scared of him, and he must have had some good big power, you know. And they said, why don't you go down and look at this land down there. And they knew all about it. They was the Buffalo Trail anyway. He said, all right, I'll go down there. He said, but if I go down there, you're going to kill me. He said, I'm going to go anyway because I can turn myself into a wolf. He said, then I'll run the hills and they won't know who I am. And whether you want to believe it or not, it's up to you. But he went down there and he surveyed the land, and that's when he seen this oil, dark as this tablecloth right here. And he looked at it, and he was bubbling out on the ground. That's what the story goes. And he said, and he went back up there and he said, he told those old timers, those chiefs, there wasn't just one chief, there were band chiefs, and there were several of them up there. Whatever was left of the Osage, you know. And he said that our people are going to flourish. Our people are going to be well off. That's what he said. He said, I don't know, it's not going to be us. He said, it's going to be our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. That's us. That's us. He said, they're going to be well off. That was in his vision. And that's why when they moved down here, they just kind of took it for granted, I guess, in a way. But the next thing, then Foster came in the 1890s, and his bill stated, and then did a blanket lease on Osage County, Osage Reservation. And the rest is history. But that's why when I got on the Second Mineral Council, I thought about it. And our people have ways, you know, and I thought, well, the old man was a very big inspiration to our people. So I wanted to start a scholarship program and had 4 scholarships, and I wanted to name it the Wadaika Scholarship. And And when you do that, you can't just use anybody's name. You got to consult with the people. So I went down to Hominy, all the Watanka people. they're not easy to get along with either. I went down there and I said, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. And all right, go ahead. But you got to knock on the door and you got to say, can I come in? We got something to talk about. All right, what do you want? And I would tell them that. And about 4 or 5 families down there that I had to talk to. Steve Pratt and his family, and different ones, and Sonny Abbott, all of them, but all from that particular, area. And I got permission, and I went back and took it to the council, and they passed it. And we've been giving out scholarships ever since, and every semester. So if any of y'all, Osages are interested in the oil business, tell them to apply every semester for the Anchor Scholarship. And it's a good thing. And we've had a couple applicants that work for us too. And Lacey's one of them. So anyway, thank you all on behalf of the Chairman Waller and the Mineral Council, and why don't you give Councilman Shackelford a hand too, because he's been coordinating this thing all this time. He couldn't have done it without it too. He's a cousin of mine too on our Hominy side, and we were close too. He calls me Eugene, and Eugene, that means big brother. And we try to observe our ways, but it's hard to do that sometimes when you live in a changing world. I have a saying myself, I'll end with this, that I told the council this council, and we're talking about change and accepting change. That's key to that. It's key right there, accepting change. When change comes, if you don't change, change will change you. When change comes, if you don't change, change will change you. Thank you.
A lot of good words by Brother Myron. Thank you guys for being here this evening. I'd like to have the council come up, please. Kenny, Joe, you guys come up here. Part of the story Myron was talking about was the twig and doing it together. And I think that any time that we acknowledge anybody, whether it's part of our people, tribe, things like that, friends, relationships, we're talking about relationships. And these guys are wonderful to work with. I'm lucky. I know these people, these gentlemen's folks. Joe's mom and dad, I had the honor of being the pallbearer at Joe's mother's funeral. And I've known Myron's family for all my life, and Kenny and I grew up together, so you can imagine the relationship we've had. So, but the reason we're here tonight is to honor not only the producer of the year, but to honor all the producers, but honor the Osages and the shareholders and the families that's represented here tonight. If it wasn't for our families, way back when, at the beginning of time, whenever we come to this country, the oil and things like that I'm not trying to downplay it, but they'd be secondary because we're talking about our people here, the Osage people. And we're still here, and the oil's still here. If we have anything to do with it, it'll always be here, and we'll always prioritize that in that manner. But it's our people first, and the oil and the producers rolling this together. So at this time, it's my pleasure to talk about a friend of ours, David Sell. We've known David, Kenny and David grew up together. They graduated high school together in 1963, 73. And so it's, David's always been around Osage people. He was close friends with the Burris family and people like that all the time that he was growing up. And his dad was an oil producer. David's a producer. Now David's son's a producer. So we got 3 generations of producers from his family. Could you give him a hand, please? Every time when you see David, he's always got a good word to say about you. You ask him any kind of information about the oil business and things like that. He's a wealth of knowledge, and it doesn't. He's offering this freely. Sometimes it's just he tells you things you may not want to hear, but oftentimes it's things that you can learn from. And it's like all of us, we're here. We see these ladies up here at this table here, and there's several tables back there of the ladies that come to our meetings. And part of what we do, and a big part of what we do is we listen to them. If not, we should be listening to them because they're a wealth of knowledge as well. So again, by doing our jobs well, we listen to you folks, and we couldn't do it without you guys. And again, thank you guys for being here. So at this time, I'd like to call up Producer of the Year, David Selton. Lisa, can you get a picture, please?
All I want to say is, this might have my name on it, but it's really my whole family. We're getting ready to start at 7:40.
Once again, thank everybody for being here tonight. Let's all switch in together with it. Let's put David to the middle.
Put him in the middle.
After tomorrow, we're gonna have some closing remarks and things like that, and so many people, Christie's, Bill, Lacey, Lisa, I mean, it's just, everybody had so much to do with this, the beautiful casino we have here, the food's been impeccable, the speakers, the presenters, everybody's just done a fabulous job. So again, just a kind of little preliminary thank you to all of them, and hopefully you guys can enjoy the rest of your evening. If you want to go game, you want to hang out, but anyway, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you.